Got Your Back Pod Stream is brought to you by Mr. Dirk. From casual wear to suits and formals, Mr. Dirk helps you find the perfect fit with the right look for any occasion. Step up your wardrobe at mrdirk.com.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. You can't trust a forward. Listen to my words tonight. Don't just fall in love with my face. I used to be somewhat of a big deal, wheeling and dealing, no bucket in the warm-up, people carrying my bags in. How many times do I have to tell you through text, let's talk about the PK? That is a dirty hit that needs a response. I like a stiff, stout pillow. We'd rather dress nobody than dress you.
The only thing I like better than easy points are free Slurpees.
Goalies embellish all the time. He tumbled over like he was hit by a Zamboni. Am I this good, or are we just winning by 7 goals, and that's why I'm out here? Just say, I know you're right, Struddy. Just get it out. I think I am the modern-day Ronnie Dangerfield.
Yeah, I get no respect.
And now, Weiss Johnson presents Struddy's World. Here's your host, the deposed leader of the Mitch Marner fan club, Jason Strudwick.
Oh, come on, Mitch Marner. I love that guy. He's absolutely on fire. How's everybody doing today? Great to catch up to you. Jason Strudwick here for Struddy's World, and our show is brought to you by our title sponsor, Weiss Johnson Heating and Air Conditioning. If it's time for a new furnace, garage heater, or hot water tank, or you're looking to beat the rush on getting a new air conditioner for this summer, act now, as the team over at Weiss Johnson are already seeing an increase in requests for air conditioning. Specializing in servicing your existing mechanical systems or installing new ones, Weiss Johnson's here for all your home comfort needs. Visit weissjohnson.com today. Hit it.
Weiss Johnson, whoa.
How's everybody doing today? Couple days between Oilers games. Have we taken a deep breath? Have we relaxed? Have we found some peace, some zen in our life? Well, I'm here down in my Adrenaline Diesel studio. Adrenaline Diesel is a Caterpillar recognized and authorized dealer and repair facility. For expert service for your CAT engine, visit adrenalinediesel.ca. Deep breaths, everyone. Goose fraba. Goose fraba, goose fraba. Today we don't have Zoobs. We have my main man, Scuba Steve Taylor from BC. Steve, how is your goose frabaing? Are you and your buddies calm? Because losing the other night to the Buffalo Sabres, it turned the social media world upside down about anger all over the place. I can't even believe what's going on in social media today.
Yeah, you know what concerns me and my buddies is that we haven't won games in a commanding fashion. And when I say we, I mean the Oilers, in quite a while. So,
Sure.
you know, some close wins, we've squeaked some out, and now all of a sudden, we're losing to the Sabres. So, yeah, the confidence isn't super high right now. And I mean, but we're kind of used to this feeling. Yeah, we'll see what happens from here.
It's been nuts on social media. People are so fired up about the goaltending, about the D play. I make a comment that the D can play better. Oh, you're letting Skinner off the hook. Well, I don't think I said that. I was trying to meet in the middle ground, suggesting what a good play by a D man would look like, along with the play of the goalie. Hi, you hate the goalie. I'm like, I don't. I'm trying to find the middle ground. So we'll try to break it down today. We've got a couple great guests coming on. Obviously, we got Scuba Steve here. We got Jack Michaels, the voice of the Oilers Radio Network, will join us, talk about, he's at the practice watching it right now. And he'll talk to us in about a couple of minutes time. Then Jamie McLennan will join us for the entire show. We're going to talk about what he sees from the net minding. So we're going to talk to a goalie, a guy who's coached the goalie position in the NHL and now an analyst. So he will speak the truth. Now, you might not like it, but he's going to tell you what he thinks. We'll get into a little bit of the Boston Bruins, who are a great story. Honestly, post-trade deadline, I want to get into that. And then our get off the fence topic tonight or today is this. And simply, I believe Mikko Rantanen should have waited till the summer to sign. So if you're got any thoughts on that, get into it. Send a text on the YouTube, whatever you like to do. Send a tweet at me. You can even send me a hummingbird, whatever you want. Actually, it's a carrier pigeon, not a hummingbird. So, Steve, that's the show for today. And it sounds like our first guest is ready to go.
You betcha.
So let's get into it with time to get up to speed. Brought to you by Timber Haas Developments. Need a little extra space for the in-laws? Timber Haas has garden suites are absolutely perfect for keeping them close. but not too close. The designs are unique, and the experience of building with Timberhouse is second to none. They'll treat you like family, build you a great house or garden suite, and take care of you for years to come. Visit timberhouse.ca. They also love visits from their clients, and they love to give you their best coffee. All right, let's bring in now the voice of your Oilers radio network, my man, Jack Michaels. Jack, you're down at practice today. Can you tell us what the lines look like? Because people want everyone to play with new players the next game.
Well, of course they do. I'm at the Rock. So, anytime you get an extra chance to go out to Jersey, you can't pass it up, right? So, but
no, absolutely.
Yeah, the Oilers took yesterday off, practicing at the Rock today. The lines are slightly adjusted. It was interesting. Janmark wasn't on the ice. Kapanen was back at fourth line center, flanked by Jones and Perry. They had Skinner up with Draisaitl and Arvidsson, and put Colson with Henrique and Brown. So if I'm reading tea leaves, if Janmark is able to go, and today was in fact a maintenance day, and right now they're preparing. Chris Knobloch actually just left the ice, so there'll be an availability where he'll probably give the masses an update on Janmark. But if Janmark's able to go and it's just a maintenance day, then it could be Vasily Podkolzin's turn to take a seat in the press box. I believe he's without a goal in his last 20. There was thought that, his play might have obviously, played a role in the third and ultimately game-winning goal, although, obviously Evan Bouchard was a central figure in that play as well. So, he didn't get a shift after that. Skinner had a decent game in his return to the lineup. So if I'm reading tea leaves, perhaps put Colson in the press box, Skinner up with Draisaitl and Arvidsson, and the reuniting of Janmark, Henrique, and Brown, which seems to be a default for Chris Knobloch when it comes to the middle six.
And then the top line would stay the same, which was a lot of people were thinking maybe there'd be a change there with Nuge maybe coming down with Draisaitl. But as it sits today, that's the latest we got here with Jack Michaels. Jack, you travel to team, you're around them all the time. We've heard this team, even when they've struggled, speak about, we have a better game, we're a confident group, we know we can find it. What is the vibe around this team now, whether it's on, in the dressing room or through the availabilities that you have and the access to the players? Is this vibe the same, that kind of non-wavering confidence? Is it still there for this group?
I think it's not necessarily one of non-wavering confidence. It's more, okay, we know we've got the group now. There's been a shift. I think for a while there was some waiting to happen, and then, hey, we've got to get out of this. I think they were slow out of the gates coming out of Four Nations, very similar to the start of the season, which isn't altogether surprising when you consider the fact they're the oldest team in the league. So, it would figure that it would take a while to get the Pistons pumping again. I thought they got better in Florida. They were better in Carolina, took a huge step back against Anaheim, and then, played a pretty sound game against an energized and desperate Montreal team that's very much in the hunt for a playoff spot and is playing very confident right now, and then played two really good periods against, a Dallas group that is favored by many to be right there with Colorado as the two teams that might have improved the most at the deadline. I don't think the loss to Buffalo deters that. I think now that they've added what they're going to add, it's back to, there's 18 games, and then our fate's going to be decided. Ultimately, with an older, experienced group that's done everything but win a Stanley Cup, Struddy, I think they're very much in the mindset, and part of it is confidence, but part of it is also detachment from whatever accomplishments might be out there, including even a division title. I thought maybe last year's experience of losing a Game 7 on the road would make that of greater significance. My hunch is this club knows that nothing that happens between now and April 15th ultimately matters. They're going to be judged by what happens in the 8 weeks following that date. And I don't want to say lackadaisical, but this regular season, more and more, now that they recovered from an early season trouble patch, I think it's an exercise. It honestly is. I think in a perfect world, you'd like to see them bear down and maybe win 13 or 14 of their final 18 to put some pressure on Vegas. And that may happen because they have a pretty soft schedule down the stretch. Mm-hmm. But, the game against Buffalo was a game where they did hit 5 posts and bars. So let's be fair. But that and this couple slips against Anaheim, those are the games that ultimately cost you things like a division title. How important that is to this team, I can't say that it holds any special importance to them. I really think they know ultimately that there's one goal that they've yet to achieve, and that's all they're really focused on.
Jack, after the last game, I highlighted the fact I felt that the Oilers' puck management was really lacking. I mean, you spoke about the third goal with puck holes, and I thought he really handcuffed Bouchard. And there was other plays, some plays that just to me are. This is a veteran team, and I think that they're a team that understands that holding the puck and putting the puck where you need to put it is really valuable. And I feel like that at times they're trying to force a play that isn't there, or they see a play, then they try to find a better play that isn't there. And then you look back for play A, and play A is no longer there. Now it's a turnover, or it's a grenade you're throwing up to somebody. So, you've followed this team, all for a long time, but all year. Have you seen the ebbs and flow of this puck management, or am I seeing ghosts here where there aren't any?
I think it's part of having a skilled group. To some degree, I think it's part of having a team that, does quite frankly have some problems bearing down at points in the regular season. I think what happened the other night, quite frankly, Struddy, is they didn't get the early knockout blow. They dominated Buffalo in the first 5 or 6 minutes. They had a couple of posts. Luukkonen had a couple pucks hit him. He made one pretty good save tight on Connor McDavid through a screen. And all of a sudden it's 0-0 in a game. You feel like you're dominating. You give up the first goal, you're chasing. And then it just becomes Buffalo all over again. And this is a team that, and Buffalo's on the list, that sometimes just, especially the way Buffalo plays. I think what you're seeing, Struddy, and what you're really pointing out is at times Edmonton can get lulled into playing at or near a level of their competition. The Sabres are a high-risk, high-reward team right now that's playing for absolutely nothing. Their own puck management is remarkably ragged and sloppy. And that ultimately, I think, infects Edmonton's game. So the best intentions, when it doesn't happen in the first 5 or 6 minutes and you're not up 2 or 3 goals, you get lulled into this trading chances back and forth. And, with any team, with any degree of skill, Anaheim's got some skill now. Buffalo, they're a poorly structured team, but they've got some skill. On the back end, they're very vulnerable to the cycle, but they've got some skill on their back end. Look at their left side. They've got Bo Byram, they've got Owen Power on a third pair, and they've got Rasmus Dahlin. Where I thought they really made an error, and we saw it in the first 5 or 6 minutes, is just continue to go to work on the cycle. Those guys don't want to bust up cycles all night. They want to trade chances. I mean, all 3 of those left-handed defensemen are thoroughbreds, Struddy. I mean, no offense, but you remember playing with those guys. They want to get up and down. They don't want to do the hard work in the corners. And I thought Edmonton did real good work in the first period on the cycle and got away from it and started trading chances and not making it difficult for those guys to defend in their own zone. I think when the Oilers go to work, they're a pretty decent cycle team. But I think what you're talking about is that it's sometimes they take the path of least resistance, especially when their hard work early goes unrewarded, whether it be the goaltender or some bad bounces. And I'm not taking them off the hook for that. It's not necessarily an admirable trait, but it's one of those things that I think you see in the regular season more so than you would in the postseason.
Yeah, the patience just to stick with it. And I think that's something I have to kind of work on. There's been a lot of discussion about the D and the netminder here in Edmonton. And I believe, can Skinner and to a lesser degree Pickard tighten things up? I do. But I think that the play in front of them that includes the D and the forwards could be tightened up. And I think when it's more predictable what they're seeing, when the goalies are seeing shots against, I think that a more predictable game favors Stuart Skinner and Pickard, and any goalie, I think, on the planet. So, as you watch this team, I guess my question is, which comes first? Maybe a little more detailed play from the D-man in front of the goalie, or the play from the goalie itself?
Well, I think it's a blend of the two, not to use a cop-out, but I will say this. I mean, do I think Edmonton can win with 8-9-6 goaltending all the way through the postseason? No, I don't. I mean, I don't care what the chances are. At some point, you got to be, and in today's NHL, Struddy, you played in the golden age of goaltending. I mean, there's just a handful of goalies that I would put in the elite mix that, would be among those goalies that you played. I mean, there's Vasilevsky, there's Hellebuck, there's, every time I want to put Ottinger in that class, he lays another egg like he did the other night. There's just a handful of goalies that's really in that mix. We're not in an era of remarkable goaltending, quite frankly. We just aren't. So 905, 906 is kind of the new norm. And, you can win without a spectacular goaltender. Colorado certainly showed that in 2022. Aiden Hill got on a bit of a roll in 2023, but I don't think anyone's, bronzing up his statue anytime soon. I mean, that's just the way it was. And Bobrovsky last year, he was good, but not great in the playoffs. People forget Stuart Skinner actually had a better save percentage in the final than Bobrovsky did. Now, Bobrovsky was skewed by a couple of performances where Edmonton just blew Florida right out of the water, particularly on home ice. But the point is, Stuart Skinner doesn't need to be unbelievable, but he needs to be a full 10th of a percentage point better than he is right now. He needs to lift his game. And that goes hand in hand with the entire club. I'm not even going to say just the defense. I think that goes all the way up and down the lineup, including, Connor McDavid. Up until a week ago, I would have told you his best hockey certainly has to be ahead of him for this team to win it all. I think that's true with the whole club. And I think, it's true of a lot of teams that have done everything but win it. Ultimately, you're going to be judged by what you do in an 8-week period. Is Edmonton banking that they can turn it on? I hope not, because the one thing I'll say, Struddy, that's a little bit different this year than in previous years is Edmonton for the last 3 or 4 years has been such a strong second half team, played to a 700 winning percentage the last 3 or 4 years in the second half. And, they're 8-10-1 in their last 19. Now, again, there's 18 games left to go in the regular season. I'd be a lot more concerned if there was a week to go in the regular season. Then you're literally banking on flipping the switch. But what I do think, and I think the greater point needs to be made, and I would say it doesn't stop with just, defense and goaltending. The whole club needs to start raising its game over the next 4 weeks. So they arrive at the postseason feeling the way they have the last 3 years. Because I do think it's important. I think it's awfully tough to just be middling along for several months and then expect everything to be there for you when the playoffs start. Especially when you have this, specter of Evander Kane arriving. You also have to integrate Trent Frederick into the hockey club. You want to be playing good hockey when those guys arrive, because there is going to be an adjustment both on the ice and off the ice and in the room to get those two guys up to speed. And, Frederick, I think, is a great middle six addition. I think it's exactly what Edmonton needed. Functional toughness that can really play at times on a second line, at times at center, at times on the wing, at times be physical. I mean, Frederick gives you all of that, but you also need to get him out on the ice, and you'd like to get him out on the ice when he's playing well. I felt bad, quite frankly, for Matt Savoy. He arrived at the worst possible time. The Oilers were in a real funk, and they weren't up to speed in the Four Nations. And Jason, you remember being a young player. When you come up and guys just aren't going, it's hard for
Yeah.
you to make a good impression, a good first impression with a coaching staff. So that's why I think the next 4 or 5 weeks are important, because they do have some key pieces coming back to their team, and you want to be playing good hockey when they arrive. So that transition is all the more seamless.
Well, Jack, I really appreciate it, buddy, and great insight. And we've got a game tomorrow night. Devils, the Rock. Should be an
Absolutely.
interesting
Hey,
one.
Before you let me go, we talked about Dallas. Were you not surprised a little bit when first Rantanen gets knocked down by Jones, and then Wallman absolutely Cronwalls him, and no one on the Dallas bench even got up, and 45 minutes goes by before there's a conversation? That to me was an interesting piece of insight, and I was curious what your take on that was.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's a new guy. It's your new shiny toy, and like someone could make a name for themselves. They go. I mean, no disrespect to Jones and Wallman, but this is a
shiny toy.
Semenko. Yeah,
right, and you just spent $96 million to get him.
I know. I mean, the game is changing a bit, but still, it's your best. You know, you just got this guy. Do you want to say, "Hey, welcome"? I know you got rocked twice, but don't worry about it. You take care of it. I'll be over here, right? I didn't see it, so I was surprised. Now, apparently, Jamie Benn asked. I think he went and talked to, was it Jones or Wallman? But still, I don't know if you asked.
That was 6 or 7 minutes into the third period. Like, a lot of time had gone by. Yeah. I just didn't even see, like, on the bench, I didn't hear anyone MFing him. It was surprising. It was notable, to use your buddy and my buddy's Ryan Rashog's words. Jack, thanks for this, buddy. And we'll see you tomorrow night. Thanks a lot for this. Yeah, I look forward to doing it again. Take care soon.
Awesome. Thank you. Great guy. Jack Michaels, Oilers Radio Network, voice of the Oilers Radio Network, I should say. Okay, so lots of information from there. The lines aren't really changing too much. We'll get into those with Jamie McLennan a little bit. I think it was time for a shakeup of the top line. I think that's where it starts. We'll get to that with Noodles next. Let's check out here when we come back. Struddy's buddy Noodles right around the corner.
For over 60 years, Belvedere Golf and Country Club has delivered a high-quality membership experience to Edmonton and area. And now it's even better. Drainage and irrigation improvements in 2024 have taken course conditions to a new level. This commitment to long-term sustainability means exceptional playing conditions all season long. Belvedere's tee sheet availability is unmatched, so join now and experience golf the way it was meant to be played, on your schedule. Visit belvederegcc.com today.
Dennis here from Weiss Johnson. Are you looking to get into the trades or have a kid graduating high school wondering what to do? Weiss Johnson is looking for career-minded people to work for us. Opportunities truly are endless. Become a service technician, gas fitter, refrigeration technician, install residential or commercial heating and plumbing systems, fireplace installations or service, duct cleaning. We are the company where you can learn all aspects of the trade and pick which career path to take. We have an awesome benefits package and offer school reimbursement too. Visit wjcareers.com today.
Welcome back, everybody. The Jason Strudwick Struddy Show. Great to have you here along with us. Thanks for taking your lunch hour with us here. Let's bring in our next guest, our old buddy, Jamie McLennan. Noodles, welcome to the program, buddy. You came back. I wasn't sure if you'd come back. There were some concerns that you were frustrated with your lack of speaking time last time.
Sorry, Noodles, that's me. Yeah, sorry, you're muted. There we go. You should be good now.
How am I muted? Hold on a second.
I muted
you.
you.
Good. You're good now.
That's not me. What kind of Wayne's World amateur hour are we running here? What? Like, that wasn't me.
No, we got it. We got it now.
You know what it is? You asked me to speak and then you muted me. So that was, you're like messing with me right off the hop.
Right.
No,
Right.
I'm never upset the lack of FaceTime or the lack of talking time. You know, I've always said, you even say it to me all the time, face for radio. So you can cut my feed anytime. So, but I'm feeling pretty good today. Feeling pretty good, looking pretty good.
Looking very good. Well, let's get right into it now. Striving for Struddy's Buddy brought to you by HSC Core Services. If you're a small and medium-sized business, HSC Core has your back when it comes to health and safety compliance. From creating and managing a tailored health and safety program that meets all legislation and core requirements, HSC Core supports clients' operations every step of the way. Visit www.hsccore.com. That's HSECOR.com for more info. Noodles, people are clamoring. They want to know, you're a former goalie, you're a goalie coach, you're an analyst now. With Stu Skinner's game, what are you seeing from him? Is it the play in front of him? Is it him that's having trouble adjusting to the saves that many people feel he should be making?
So I think they go hand in hand, Struddy. When Stuart Skinner's at his best, there's some predictability in the game in front of him. So let's be honest, their team has been wildly inconsistent, and I think that ties to Stuart Skinner's play. Now, if I'm pre-scouting Stuart Skinner, I think I'll say some of the things he does well. He'll come out, cast his angle, and he's 6'4". He's a big guy, and he closes up holes. So what he wants to do is just be big and force shooters to go around him. Okay, I think he handles the puck really well. I think obviously, listen, there will be people say, "Oh, well, I saw him give that puck away," and all of that. When you handle the puck a lot, you are going to make mistakes. But I do believe when he's on his game, there's not a lot of motion. He comes out, he gets hit by the puck, he controls the rebound, and just settles in. What I've seen this year is inconsistency in his game. So if I'm pre-scouting the Edmonton Oilers, one of the things when I'm looking at the goaltender is I got to get him moving because he's not super efficient lateral motion. So because he's a big guy and pushing right to left or left to right, there is holes there, but he's not a guy who's got tremendous feet. So what he needs to do, again, I go back to working hand in hand with the D. If he's fronting the puck, he's good. For the most part, if he sees it, he stops it. But when you get things moving east-west, you can open him up and you can certainly beat him there because his lateral pushes are average. And I'll give you an example, Struddy. You teased me about my lack of flexibility when I played, right? So for people who are watching, now I know there's going to be people listening, but people watching, I'm doing like an inverted V, okay? So a lot of goaltenders in today's game who have tremendous flexibility, they have a flush butterfly. Like it is flat and it is straight. So when I look at Stuart Skinner, 6'4" guy with a butterfly, and if he had a flush butterfly, there would be no ice on the net, on the like no lower net. Vemelka is a guy that comes to mind. He's got good flexibility, and Jake Ottinger, when he's on his game, he's got a flush butterfly. Stuart Skinner doesn't have one, but he's close. So it's not a V, but it's a little wider V. So he can't. It's not complete ice coverage because there is still holes to get around him, and it would be fine. But if you look at Calvin Pickard, his butterfly is literally his feet underneath him. Like there's not much of a butterfly there, right? Yeah. So both of their goaltenders have the same kind of style. It's not a true butterfly. You can get them, you can catch them or get them by opening them up by moving side to side. So that's the biggest challenge, I think, for Oilers goaltending is you don't have guys with clean butterflies, and if you get them moving, you can open them up. So that being said, go hand in hand. If you're defending, what are you doing? You're taking away passes. You're making sure that extra pass through a seam or a back door is not available. So that way a goaltender can just front the puck. And what I mean by fronting the puck is just you're square to it, you're out casting your angle, and a great shot's going to beat you, but outside of that, you should make those saves. And when the Oilers and Stuart Skinner are at the top of their game, there's not a lot of side east-west. Yes, he's going to have to stop a breakaway or a 2-on-1 and stuff like that. A puck will hop over a stick. But what I'm saying, with the Oilers are tight, and when they're on that roll of winning a bunch of games, they look connected. The goaltender looked connected to the D looked connected to the forwards, and they were all tied together. Right now, there's been pockets of a game where they can look connected, and there's pockets of a lot of pockets where they're disconnected, where I'm seeing the forwards not helping the D not helping the goaltender not helping everybody else. And the other night, I'll give you an example. Like, I thought that third goal, I think it's Thompson's second goal, so the third goal, which was eventually the game-winning goal. There's a turnover in the offensive zone. I thought Bouchard was very casual. He's a guy that's under a lot of heat. Very casual, to say the least, on the play. And then it gets poked loose, and he gets around Skinner, and Skinner can't get there to push across and make that save. So it's like, it goes hand. Those are three mistakes. You might add another fourth in there, but it's Stuart Skinner. People are like, okay, I'd like a save. Well, 100%. You need your goaltender to bail you out at the right time. And when a goaltender is doing his job, and I say a starting goaltender, you're not going to stop every puck. But what you do need to do is make the saves you should and a couple that you shouldn't to give your team an opportunity to win that night. And Skinner, there's nights where he looks great. I thought he looked really good in Montreal. I thought he looked really good against Montreal. I thought he was just okay against Buffalo. They didn't get the goal support. Yeah, they had 3 posts, and, guys didn't bear down, and there was some, leaky play in front of them. But you got to find a way. And to me, Skinner's always been a guy that just does what he can to get the win that night. He doesn't care about the stats. He doesn't care. It's just, I got to bear down and get the win. And he hasn't done that consistently enough. And I think it's tied to the play in front of him. But I'm not going to absolve him. He needs to be better and more consistent. And that's why, I think they kind of have been a team that's been up and down, because it kind of mirrors their goaltender and some of their top players.
That's a great breakdown. Now, Steve, you've got a comment from a listener, I'm guessing?
Yeah, Nick Biskopek is wondering from you, Noodles, do you think there's a glaring difference between Skinner's game last year to this year?
I do. That's a great question, Nick. And it just falls back into consistency. Okay, so let's throw out the first, we call it 16 games of last season, which was a tire fire for everybody. It cost the coach's job, and it was a dumpster fire. Okay, so from that point on, Stuart Skinner was quite reliable. And what I mean by that is, if, like, goaltenders, when they're at their best, they're predictable. Like, I look at goaltenders, Vasilevsky's one of my favorite goaltenders. If I look at a shot selection, I can pretty much tell you how he's going to defend that, how he's going to make the save. So what I mean is, predictable goaltending is, the guy's going to be in position, he's going to get hit by the puck, and it's going to take a great play or a fluky play to beat you, okay? I thought Skinner was a lot more consistent with his saves last year in his save selection. This year, it's been wildly erratic. So, and I'll be honest, sometimes less is more for a goaltender. I remember Ron Hextall, who was my first goalie partner years ago, telling me this, and it actually rung true for years. Struddy, you can speak to this. As a defenseman, as a forward, you can skate harder, you can hit harder, you can shoot harder, you can do everything a little bit harder if you have a little bit more juice. As a goalie, you can't stop the puck harder. And you can you can actually see guys working in the net, and it's counterproductive, because they want to make that save, they push across, they're busy. And what happens when you're busy is you open up holes. And you're chasing it. You want it so bad, you're chasing it. I see some a guy who's a little bit overactive on certain scenarios in Stu's game, because you can tell he's aware. We're talking about him. You don't think as an athlete he's aware that his game needs to be more consistent. So getting back to your question, there was more consistency in his game last year, where he just played the same way. And if it worked out that night, great. If it didn't, hey, I loved his demeanor last year. He'd give up 6. You knew the next game he was going to be rock solid, because he'd be dialed in. He did that all last season. This year, you could see a little bit of doubt in his game. You could see a little bit of doubt in the game in front of him as well. And they go hand in hand. So, when I call him Chuck Knobloch, but when Chris Knobloch the other day came out and said, we're a fragile team. It's weird to say that. You're a fragile team. You're one of the oldest teams in the league. Guys have been there and done that on a lot of different levels, but you're still squeezing your stick. You're still trying to do things. You're thinking out there instead of reacting. And I'm seeing guys, Connor Brown, I'm seeing 19, what's his name? Third
19,
line center.
Henrique.
Adam Henrique, overthinking. You know, guys like that, where they're usually just go out and play, and they're always in the right spot. And to me, when you overthink, you're behind the play already because it's so fast. So with Stuart Skinner, I'd like to see a little bit more consistency within his structure.
So the Lions came out today. They're practicing in New Jersey. They're joined by Jamie McLennan. It's the top line, no change. Nuge, McDavid, Hyman. And then it looks like it's going to be Skinner, Draisaitl, Arvidsson. And then we're guessing Paul Colson will come out because Janmark wasn't practicing, but Janmark with Henrique and Brown. And then Jones, Kapanen with Perry. And then obviously Paul Colson's coming out. Didn't play after that third goal, which he's been pretty good at managing the puck, but that one is a D-man. That one hit me right in the soul. My thoughts were maybe you mix up that top six a little bit more, right? That it's not like McDavid, Hyman, and Nuge are right now killing it. We've seen them killing it. This is at best lukewarm Noodles. But is there concern about the message that Knobloch sends to his group if he changes that top line up and kind of jumbles the lines up?
I don't know if it's messaging, more about he's looking at, okay, for example, that top line, none of them have had a career season, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's almost like he's saying, okay, I'm putting you guys together. You guys figure it out because all three of you need to figure it out. And it's weird for me to say Connor McDavid, you know, in that, but we've seen some inconsistency in his game from a production level and even handling the puck. Some of his passes a little off here, a little off there. So I could see, I know what you're saying, Strud, but outside of Draisaitl up for forwards, there hasn't been a guy who's like just been killing it night in and night out. So if anything, maybe Draisaitl is your whisperer. It's like, if you want to get somebody going, you play him with 29. I do think it's interesting putting Skinner and Arvidsson with Draisaitl. I don't know how long ago it was. I felt that there was a little bit and just a smidge of chemistry there where, you know, I don't think there's been a lot of chemistry with anybody with Draisaitl, you know, consistently outside of McDavid and, you know, Hyman. But if you could get Jeff Skinner to 80% of what he used to be, because he's not a burner anymore, but he's still very good with his edge work. You don't forget how to score goals. So he is a guy that if you give him an opportunity to score goals, I think Arvidsson, that one timer the other day, that might have, maybe that gives him a little bit of confidence going too, because I think it was like 17 games. The guy, Pod Colson, if he had any hands, he'd have 15 to 20 goals this year. Like this guy has been placed in a lot of situations. The guy that worries me is Kapanen. Like this guy's had a golden opportunity. You get plucked off waivers, you come to a top tier team, and there's nights where it's just you're looking out there and you're like it's almost illegal to break a sweat. You're like hold on, slow things up here. You don't want to be a burn. You want what are you doing? You're one of the fastest skaters. Like use your speed. So to me, I think I can understand Paul Colson coming out, but I think there's a few other guys that the message has to be sent, clear. Like you're also a guy who's on thin ice here. So, it is weird. Jeff Skinner goes from the press box and now you're going to play him in a top six role. But that being said, there are guys that they thrive in better situations. And to me, Skinner should be a guy, you should give him a little bit of a run there and see what could happen. Because in the end, keep in mind, Frederick apparently is around the corner. I don't know the latest on him. Is Evander Kane? Those spots are going to be up for grabs come playoffs. So somebody better stabilize in these positions, or else they're going to cycle somebody else through.
Grab your spot now while there's a chance to grab it. Otherwise, you might be trying to grab it from the press box. Noodles, all right. That was STRUDDY'S Buys. Let's take a look now at the standings. Brought to you by Painted by Michaela. If your home interior is feeling dull or outdated, Painted by Michaela knows fresh coats are in season all year round. From winter to summer, they're dependable. Quality service delivers a clean, flawless finish every time, done by professionals you can trust. Proudly serving the Edmonton area, they're ready to transform your space. Call 780-935-8608. So Noodles, today we're looking at the wild card spots, and I find these really interesting. And Steve's going to show us one here, but we can start. I guess you can start in the on the east or the west.
What would you like?
Is
Let's
he
go
drawing
east.
him up on a piece of paper? And
Yeah,
flash
he's got
them
the
or what?
crayons
Let me
out.
see it on the screen.
Throw
the
the
West?
east one up.
Okay,
Or west,
here's
either
east.
one.
Well,
Okay,
I'll
here's
do
east. So I find this really interesting. I think of teams that were going to be locks. And we see two teams to me that are pushing in there, the Ottawa and the Blue Jackets. When I thought, quite frankly, I thought that the Bruins and the Rangers would be locks. So what do you think Ottawa needs to do or can do to solidify that spot that I think their GM, Steve Stales, really wants badly?
Well, I think now they need the two new players to gel, and Dylan Cousins has 2 goals and an assist in the 3 games that he's been there. He had 18 hits in 3 games. You scored a beauty last night on a terrible turnover. Philadelphia. John Tortorella's head almost blew right off his body behind the. But like Cousins is a really nice fit there. You can see that they wanted a a long centerman who could play physical. That Zetterlund player was a sneaky grab. I don't know. You're looking at teams and going, God, you couldn't give, like Edmonton couldn't have found a second rounder to find a spot for a 25 goal scorer who's 220 pounds and is physical. And you look around, I think there's a lot of teams that felt that Zetterlund maybe wasn't available. And I think Steve Stales found it. But I look at Ottawa and it's just about getting it done. And what I mean by that, and I think it's a lazy analogy, but they've never been in this spot. It's mid-March and they're playing meaningful games. And that core 4 days ago, 5 days ago, whatever that was, Friday, got shook to the core. They plucked Josh Norris out and said, hey, we're taking one of the guys that we drafted and developed. We signed all of these guys long-term, and they shook the core up. Brady Tkachuk is in tears. The next day, he's an animal against the Rangers in a big comeback win. I think they need health of the goaltender, Allmark, who, stole the game the other night against Detroit. But it's just about finding that consistency of like, hey, we're playing meaningful minutes and we're playing against, like last night it's Philadelphia. Tomorrow it's Boston. Saturday it's Toronto. Like they're playing in their conference, all of these teams that they're either chasing or trying to keep down. Like these are the most meaningful points. So I think Ottawa, when I look at these teams, I do see them as a playoff team. The biggest surprise for me is the Rangers. Like, I just don't know what the hell went wrong there. Jacob Trouba was the problem. Nope. Capo Caco was the problem. Had to get the goaltender signed. They got the goalie signed. And he was a little nicked up. Jonathan Quick looks his age. He's 40 years old. Keandre Miller, this guy was supposed to be a stud. He's out there skating around. I don't know what, there's some of these players I'm like, this is a good team on paper. They just look awful. And I always use the word disconnect or connected or disconnected. I still think they can find a way to sneak in. It might be dangerous. Columbus is just an amazing story, Struddy. It's
incredible.
And
Fantilli's been great. Fantilli's been great.
Fantilli's been awesome. The Russian who's going up for Cy Young Award. He's got 20 goals and 2 assists. Marchenko.
Marchenko, yeah. It's pretty amazing. It's a great story, and I want Columbus to make. I've got no skin in this thing, but I'd like to see Columbus and I'd like to see Ottawa get in there. I love that Dylan Cousins pickup. I think he provides them something they don't have at center. Right, Brady now's on the wing. You have Cousins in there, and then you start to develop a bit of an attitude. Hey, we're going to play heavy. We're going to play hard, still with some skill though. So it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out, man. Really interesting.
Well,
go ahead.
Detroit is still sniffing around there. Boston, it looks like Boston was sellers, and they go and come back against Florida last night. They've won a couple.
I know.
I think they're almost defiant and going, we're going to try and win some games. Swayman was brilliant the other day against Tampa. So they go to Florida. They beat Tampa and the Panthers last night. I mean, Boston is, I think because of the games that they might be out of it, they've played a little bit more than everybody else. But I think they could play spoiler down the stretch and it'll be right there.
For sure. All right, that was taking a look at the standings by our friends over at Painting by Michaela. All right, let's take a quick pause here. When we come back, we're going to play the field. We're going to touch a little bit on the Bruins. Some great audio out of that dressing room after the game. And then getting off the fence, I'm going to tell you about Mikko and why I think he made a mistake. So stay with us.
Specializing in heavy-duty commercial truck powertrain repair, performance, tuning, and part sales, Adrenaline Diesel's professional team is ready to assist you with all of your needs, from the simplest oil changes to engine conversions, overhauls, and engine modifications. Featuring an all-new online parts store and machine shop to manufacture, replicate, or repair parts, visit adrenalinediesel.ca.
Join over 250,000 Canadians who have upgraded to Canada's best mattress. Douglas is proudly made in Canada and ships directly to your door for free. Douglas is easy to set up. Enjoy perfectly balanced comfort and an easy-to-clean machine washable cover. Get a free sleep bundle with your Douglas mattress. Try risk-free for 365 nights. Get your Douglas mattress today.
Whoa. We'll wrap in here for you today. Time to play the field now.
You don't want to put any bars down or anything like that?
No, beats.
Okay.
No, I'm not a big beats. I've always played the trombone and the organ. Nothing too exciting. All right, it's time to play the field with our buddy Noodles and myself. Brought to you by Play Alberta, the online gambling site that wants to put you in a scoring position with a $50 free bet. Bet on all your favorite Alberta sports teams or whatever team you love. Then hit the slots and play for a big jackpot or stack your chips at the live dealer tables. During this month's $50 free bet, use code GYBO3 at playalberta.ca. All right, Noodles. So we're going to talk about the Bruins for a second. Then I'm going to tell a story that I can't believe I read it today. This is actually happening in the sporting world. So let's get to the Bruins. And I think you touched on the Bruins a little bit. They changed a lot. They traded away some really good players, including their captain, the big guy, Brad Marchand. And he went down there. They didn't play in the game last night, but it's very emotional, right? And then you traded players all over the place, and you still have a couple good D-men sitting out from injury, and they finding ways to win. And as I watched some of that game last night, what I loved was Zadorov fighting at the end of the game Bennett. Like, that to me shows they're still emotionally connected to this game, which I think is really important. I've been on bad teams and you're like, I don't think I'm going to take this fight anymore. You know what? I'm good. I'll just keep this face looking good.
Well, I did keep it looking. Are we running sound?
Yeah, we got you. Yeah.
No, we're not running sound. No, he was waiting for you to talk first.
I was waiting for you. You said, keep this face looking good. I knew that you left a hole for me to go, are you sure about that? No. But I in watching that game, honestly, you're right. Like, I loved that the Bruins are still connected. Like, they're still involved emotionally. And you know what? That Zadorov, he only plays one way. Like, that's just, I just don't think that's his DNA, Struddy. I just don't. I think he's a guy that, whether you like him or not, I think in his mind, he believes he's a number one defenseman and he can do anything he wants out on the ice. But he comes to play, and, I've seen that NHL mic'd up a few moments, and he's out there chirping. Like, there was the one that NHL released where he was said to Brady, he goes, you want to get the crowd going here? I think it was right out of the Four Nations face-off. He's like, hey, you want to have one? Let's get the crowd going. And Brady goes, no, I'm better on the ice than you are, type of thing. So I love that stuff. And you're right. You're right about
it's so
Boston.
Huge. It's so, and honestly, Noodles, I think the Canucks missed that. I think they missed that. So I want to hear it out of the dressing room last night. And this is a digital soundbox brought to you by Douglas Mattresses. If you're like me, there's nothing better than a good night's sleep after a long day. Your best sleep is just around the corner. With every mattress there, including a free sleep bundle that includes 2 memory foam pillows, a complete set of luxury sheets, and more. Visit the Douglas Mattress Store in Manchester Square here in Edmonton, or check them out at douglas.ca/GYB. Okay, so post-game, this is Mason Lohrei about the end of the game. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I haven't been that fired up in a long time. That was unbelievable. He does so much for us. I think right before that, he saved a goal, puck went out of play, and then we all know what happened after that. So I love watching him play, as I'm sure all you guys do too.
And I think it's huge because, like I said, it's easy just to let the season slip away. And I'm not going to take that fight. I'm not going to block the shot. And are the Bruins going to make it? I don't know. But I think it shows some of the fight still in that dressing room, especially when you see Brad Marchand walk out the door. And he's not the player he was a number of years ago. He's 36 years old. But, buddy, he brings it, and he probably stirs that room up quite a bit.
And the other thing, too, Strud, is these guys now, and as we all are, on social media, everyone's written them off, including the city of Boston. You know, you see locally the beat writers and all of that are saying, okay, that's it. It's check, please. It's curtains. And the guys in the dressing room are going, screw you. You know, they're going like Jeremy Swayman's still a top tier goaltender. David Pastrnak has scored 60 goals in this league. You know, like you look through the lineup, like some of the trades they made, if they're retooling on the fly, they didn't trade for, you know, a bum off the street. You know, they traded for good players to come in. You know, Casey Middlestad is a good player. He's just a different player. Colorado needed a change. So I look at this Boston team, and you're right, Strud. We both have played on non-playoff teams where it's like, okay, 6 weeks left. You know, you're looking at your contract status. You're looking at like personal things and going, what can I do? Well, these guys in the dressing room are going, we got nothing to lose. We're going to play.
No.
Let's
Good.
leave it out there and play. And I don't know if McAvoy's coming back. Lindholm's not coming back. The defenseman, Lindholm, the centerman that they're paying $9 million or $8 million to, he could probably go, hey, you know, I signed here. I don't know if I signed up for this. Like some of their players could get going and they could make they could make this interesting, put it that way, down the stretch.
And I love that. Let's just go back into our digital soundbacks brought to you by Douglas Matches and hear from their head coach, Joe Sakic, who, after I heard this, talk about underselling the intensity of a game. Just so you know, Florida's winning 2-0. Boston comes back and scores 3. And this is what Joe Sakic said after the game hit it.
Just a good spirited game. And like I said before, I think that, you know, that's the type of hockey we want to play, right? We're not going to quit. We're going to battle right to the end. And, you know, that's the Bruins, right? That's what we want to be.
That's good, Steve. I love that. Just a good spirited game. Like, talk about underselling, like a huge win, comeback win for his team. Okay, buddy, I got to get into this. So I'm always looking for kind of interesting stories. And apparently there is a huge cheating scandal that just threw the ski jumping world into like all kinds of problems. And I'm like, oh my God, what happened? Like, was someone like accused of using PEDs? Did someone like, you know, ruin someone else's equipment or push them off the ledge? No, none of those things. This is what happened. And these are 2 Olympic champions that are gold medalists. What these people did is they added more material to parts of their suits so they'd float in the air longer. Now, the 2 accused people, I got to get their names correct. I might get them wrong. They're Norwegian. Marius Lindvik and Johan Andre Forfang, they're 2 Olympic gold medalists. They're not allowed to compete in the world event this weekend. But their coach and their trainer have already said that they denied that they cheated, but their coach and their trainer already said, we did it. Yeah, we did it. But these 2 athletes are saying they didn't. So, I mean, talk about scandal. This is going to rock the world, buddy. This is right up there, the biggest scandals you've ever seen.
Well, I mean, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. Is that the saying? It is. But I mean, that sport, you always think of like, you know, different sports. Do you remember like it was the New York City Marathon where that one lady took the subway and then and then ended up jumping out and winning? Like, you know, I love these stories, but you're adding material. And like at some point, you're just going to have to go, okay, you got us. You caught us. Yeah. You know, take our slap on the wrist. We'll take our suspension, take our fine. You got 2 people saying, no, that wasn't us. And 2 people going, yeah, it was us. Like we did it. The trainer and the coach, they're either going to fire the players or the players are going to fire them. Like you can't walk back into that room and go, okay, you know, you should be all on the same page. You either deny or you admit it. Look at these cheaters.
Look at these guys. This is what the face of cheating looks like in Norwegian for ski jumping. No. The funniest part, guys.
What type of material? Like this is, I'm more intrigued of like, what material were they adding? Like a little, like underneath their arms, like a little cape?
So I was trying to read it. I understand it's around their groin area, their crotch area, because the funniest part is that how they found it, they had to unstitch some of that area and they realized there was extra material in that area. So the face of cheating, and the funniest thing is the article goes on to talk about how they always rank so high as far as not cheating, but here they are. And it's like, it's not drugs. They didn't ruin someone else's equipment. They just added material to their own suits. So we unfortunately can't see the crotch, but there obviously is extra material in there. He's stuffing. I think that's what we can say. He's stuffed.
He stuffed his pants. Number 53's got a shady look at his face. He stuffed his pants. You can tell that. The guy on the left, he doesn't know where he is. Like he might have just been a guy that followed him. The guy on the right looks really guilty.
I was so anyways, we'll see what comes of this. Maybe by next week we'll have an update and these people will admit it that they made a mistake.
Maybe
all right,
they will do like an apology tour and they'll come on your show. Wouldn't that be great?
Thank you for covering our story. Thanks for covering our story. You're the only North American news outlet that covered it. Okay, so that was time to play the field. So now we're going to get to getting off the fence. Brought to you by our good buddies at DLR Vinyl Products. Alberta's leading supplier of vinyl products. DLR offers premium materials for fences and decks designed to stand the test of time, no rotting, fading, or deteriorating. I know some of you are looking at your fence thinking, man, I got to paint that or fix it. Whether you're looking for a professional contractor or planning to tackle the project yourself, they have the resources and expertise to help. Canadian owned and operated with locations in Calgary and Edmonton. Check them out online at dlrvinylproducts.ca. Okay, Noodles. So the trade deadline, prior to the trade deadline, the Carolina Hurricanes acquire Mikko Rantanen. And pretty much right away, it felt like they were trying to get him to sign. And I get it. They want to get this asset. He's a really good player, one of my favorite players in the NHL. According to different sources, apparently he didn't want to sign or wasn't interested, whatever. He wasn't going to sign the extension at that time. So they now move him over from Carolina over to Dallas. Beforehand, he signs the contract. Now, I was never an elite player. That might surprise some of you out there. I was never offered a 10-year contract or whatever it is. But I made a mistake. Someone made a mistake. They should have. Could have got me for league minimum. But Noodles, what I'm thinking here is that his head must be spinning. Allegedly, he didn't know about Colorado was going to move him or didn't feel it was imminent. Then he goes to Carolina where they're trying to force him to sign a deal. And I don't blame Carolina. I would have done the same thing. And then they're like, okay, well, you have 72 hours to figure out where you want to go and sign the contract because we want to train for you. So I think Mikko made a mistake. Now, Dallas is great. They've got a good young team or a good team with some different age players. I get that. But Noodles, I think, and my point on get off the fence, I would have waited. Now, it's hard to wait when someone's offering you nearly $100 million. But I think it's such a big decision. I'm sure the money would have been close to and or the same, come July 1st. So I'd like to have your thoughts as a former player who, although, overpaid, you never had the 8-year contract either.
I was overpaid for what I did. I will be honest. But there's so many layers to this, Struddy. Like all I could think about when he signs an 8-year extension at $12 million a year is like, what was Colorado offering? Like that, so that they didn't, like there had to have been contract talks with Colorado. Right. And what was the number where it was like, okay, we got to trade you. This isn't going to work. And then his head is spinning. He acts like, oh, I didn't know I was going to get traded. You have to think that he's sitting in his hotel room in Dallas going, I probably could have got something close to that in Colorado and still be playing on that team. Now, you're right. Dallas is a good team, state tax, all of that fun stuff. But you wouldn't have had to have like a weird stop in Carolina. And then the Rod Brindamore comments as well going, like you got here going, yeah, there's 4 teams that I would sign with. And you guys aren't one of them. That's like, going to the bar and meeting somebody. It's like, hey, I really, thank you for buying me these drinks, but there's no chance we're going to go far past this conversation. It's just, it's a weird dynamic. So you're right. When you get to Carolina and your head is spinning, maybe he's just like, hey, I want to take the money and go on to one of these teams that is a contender. But I go back further and I question, like, who's advising him? Did the agent tell him like there's more money out there for you? You got like, to me, like nowadays these players all have like a camp. So your parents, your wife is involved, everybody, like that's their own brand. Like somewhere in there, could somebody not have pulled him aside and said, like, what are you doing here in Colorado? Do you want to stay? You could probably make it work. Now you go to Carolina, you don't want to make it work, and now you're off to Dallas. I'm sure he'll make it work there, but Struddy, I agree with you. Once you got to Carolina, if you didn't like the scenario, play it out and then choose your scenario this summer. You're that good of a player, but easier said than done to, you know, not stuff 90 million into your jeans or whatever it is, 96 million, whatever 8 times 12 is. So it's, you know, at the end of the day, it's just a weird scenario, and it's a bad look for a lot of people in this too.
It is. And the crazy thing is that, you know, you look at Carolina, who did all this, they have a lot of assets, but they don't really have a play. Like Stankoven's a good young player, but he's definitely not Rantanen, and he's, well, I don't know if he'll ever be Rantanen, and he's not Nick Cash right now, right? So you're kind of like, they're left holding the bag, and you're a player in that dressing room. You're like, what just happened, right? We had a pretty decent team, then we had a really good player. Now he's gone, and we're kind of left with all these draft picks, which I don't see them or view them as a rebuilding team. So maybe they'll take those assets and move those for new players, right?
That's not a rebuilding team. I would argue that they're a cup contender. And then you're right. So in the end, they traded Netches. I butcher his name all the time, but Netches for Stankoven and picks. So, you know, that's really what they've ended up with. And yes, you can spin those picks into live players at the draft and all of that. But how does that make you more of a contender? Like when Carolina got him, all they had to do is like, okay, we overpaid for this guy. We'll let him walk to free agency, but give your team a chance to try and win the cup with Rantanen past the deadline. Let him settle into his environment. Know that he's not going anywhere until the offseason. Yes, you want to sign him, but if he has a long run and he plays with his best friend and they have a great 3 months there, maybe he'll change his thought process on Carolina. I guarantee you he's probably eaten at 2 restaurants there and stayed in that crappy Marriott across from the PF Chang's, 15 minutes away from the rink. So like Raleigh is a great place, but it's like you got to go looking for it. It's like Edmonton. Edmonton's not for everybody, but once you dig into the city and realize there's beautiful surroundings, it's they're like, you have to get to know the market, get to know everything. He didn't give it a chance, and it's too bad.
Yeah, it is too bad. Yeah, you know, he's got his home now, and I guess it really doesn't change anything I don't think, for the Western Conference, because he was already in the Western Conference, right? It's not like I think the Eastern Conference teams are probably actually barely breathing a sigh of relief. All right, everybody, that's it for us. Noodles, thanks for joining us for the whole show today, buddy. I know you got Overdrive today coming up. In 3 hours?
I do. I got in an hour. Yeah, I'm mentally preparing for it right now. Okay. But there was. It was at Michaela Painting. Was that what one of the sponsors?
Yeah.
Did they do the side of the hair there? I was noticing there's a little tinge, like you've got a little Jim Benning going on right now. Did you get a fresh dip or not?
Yeah. No, I know what, I don't dye my hair. I don't. I refuse to. I'm just gonna let it naturally go. Like many of the great ones, like George. What's that guy's name? That really good-looking guy, George.
George Hamilton.
No, George Clooney, not George Hamilton.
Hey guys, this just in from Shogger. He just wanted to send his regrets. Too busy to be involved in the show today, obviously, but from his hot tub, he wanted to let us know that he's keeping an eye on things and watching the show. So he,
well, talking about those guys who stuffed their trousers too, wasn't that the Shogger? I hope that we didn't want a picture of him. He's probably naked in that hot tub right now.
Yeah. Water's cold, guys. Water's cold.
Oh boy.
If that was me, I'd be wearing a bodysuit with a straw, right?
Scuba gear. Scuba gear. Steve, any final thoughts, Steve?
That was it. That was it. Now I have a bad vision in my head, and yeah, I wish it wasn't my final thought, but it is. But thanks a lot, boys. Great job, Noodles. And yeah, good job, Struds. It's fun.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. Noodles, thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it. And I'll be holding court for you tomorrow, I think. I'm on your show, Overdrive, tomorrow. So I'll try to keep the boys in line. Okay, boys, thanks a lot. And tune in. Our next show will be tomorrow after the Oilers game for the Got Your Bass podcast after the Oilers game against the Devils. Thanks for tuning in. Tell a friend. Give us a thumbs up. We'll talk to you all later.